Thank you, Bob, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I want to leave you with some thoughts as you go about your business and your life. It's an honor to be the final speaker. And I'm going to build on what Suzanne said about observation. It's not just machines that have the power of observation, but so do humans. So I'm going to test our observation skills with a quick exercise. I'd like you to count the number of times the letter F appears in this one sentence. There's no trick question. I know you've had your coffee. You're fast readers. When you're done, look back at me, please. Count the number of times the letter F appears in this single sentence. And look back at me when you're done. OK. So how many people saw all three? Most of you. Anybody see 4? Some of you. Anybody see 5? Some of you. So the actual answer is 6. And now that you know the answer, see if you can count the 6 Fs. I'm going to give you a hand here. 5 flies of, scientific of. So think about that F as the future of aging, future of science, future of your work, and future of aging. Now, there's one group that doesn't get this question wrong. It's little children. So one of the casualties of aging is that it becomes harder to observe what's in front of us, which sounds depressing, but I'm here to tell you that's great news, because the future of aging may actually be hiding in plain sight. We just have to call it out. When I was in college, I studied evolution. And one of the coolest ideas I heard at Harvard was the idea that aging might actually be a trait. This idea was advanced by August Weismann in the 1800s. And he basically said, hey, I wonder if aging is a way to get out of the better versions of ourselves, our own children, and our progeny. That idea was around in biology for decades until 1953, when Peter Medawar, a Nobel laureate, thought, since aging occurs after we finish reproducing, I don't think that's a trait. I understand we just lost this man last night to aging. This man is clearly reproducing while aging, right? So I don't think Medawar is correct. Grandmothering happens after we finish reproducing, so that's a trait. The fact that there's been no runaway selection against menopause, we should have been delaying menopause through evolution, that hasn't happened. So all of these things suggest that maybe aging actually is a trait. There was an idea in biology half a century ago that cells are programmed to age and die. That was heresy until it won the Nobel Prize. So why can't that be happening at the human level? I don't know. But what's striking about this observation is that there are cells that are programmed to age that edit out their own genes, and now you can't kill them. They're immortal. What do we call them? Cancer, right? So maybe cancer is telling us something, that there's a potential to edit out our own senescence. I know we have to solve cancer. It's the scourge of humanity. But maybe some of us should be thinking about, hey, what is cancer doing right? I chose to look at aging as a trait. You can't prove or disprove that it's a trait, but I can just assume that it's a trait. It's the road not taken because of the Medawar's argument in 1953. And why not take a moonshot, as President Kennedy took us on in aerospace 6 decades ago now. So with this in mind, our family launched an initiative to change the foundation of how we think about aging and health around the idea of homeostatic capacity. Now, what is homeostatic capacity? All of you probably learned about homeostasis, which is a state of equilibrium. Think about homeostatic capacity as the ability to get to homeostasis. An easy way to visualize this is as a weeble wobble, that toy. I love toys like Ted. That's that toy where if you push it, it self-centers. So nature gave humans the ability to self-center as a weeble wobble. When we're young, it is so effective, we don't even realize we have it until we start losing it right around my age. So I turned 40, and all of a sudden, my weeble couldn't self-center. And here are the catalog of my experiences. I could no longer ride roller coasters because now when I come off of it, my weeble doesn't self-center. And what I say is, I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do cartwheels. I can't do somersaults. Also can't tolerate altitude. My kids are running around at 8,000 feet, and I'm not feeling good. When I step into a restaurant at night, my pupils underperform. They don't open up enough, so everything looks too dark. Outside, sun is too bright. My weeble doesn't self-center. My temperature doesn't self-center. When I go outside at 55 degrees, I'm wearing 2 layers, and my boys are in T-shirts. They say it's not cold. I say it's cold. Neither one of us are lying. I've lost homeostatic capacity. My weeble doesn't self-center. Moving to California didn't help either. When my kids get sick, they're sick for 2 days, and they're completely fine. When I catch a cold now, I'm coughing for a month. I can't self-center. I used to be able to stay up all night in college and feel fine the next day. Now, when I stay up late, I went to a Lady Gaga concert on a Tuesday. I was still tired on Saturday. There is no recovery. Same with jet lag, hangovers. Now, when I eat a bad meal, I used to be able to eat anything, and I was fine. Now, when I eat a bad meal, I wake up at 1 a.m. I've lost metabolic capacity. My ability to recover from injury, wounds, all these things are in decline. I finally had to quit playing hockey at 43. And this is the reason why all high-end athletes have to stop playing at 40, because their ability to get back to homeostasis, their homeostatic capacity is eroding. Healthcare was inside of us for 40 years. It was homeostatic capacity. It leaves us at 40. Then we do Wack-O-Mole through healthcare, and then we die. That's the short history of life. Now think about the objective experiences of losing your homeostatic capacity. I just described the subjective ones. Objectively, when we're young, when our blood pressure and sugar, those levels go high, our homeostatic capacity returns it to homeostasis. Now after 40, in some of us, those numbers stay high, and we're given names like diabetes and hypertension. What if all of these things are not separate diseases? What if all of these things are just one disease, just lost homeostatic capacity? We should always be thinking about the most parsimonious explanation for a different phenomenon. Maybe all of this is just one thing. Our weeble can't self-center. Now, why do we miss this? Well, I think we miss this in part because we forgot to apply this man's teaching to biology. Hermann Minkowski told us that we should think in 4 dimensions in physics, and that helped Einstein integrate physics. This didn't happen in biology. We still think about biology 3-dimensionally, and we don't think about it over time. We don't do continuous monitoring, as Bob mentioned. And therefore, we actually miss the insight. Because what we're doing in our annual checkups of measuring our dynamic system with state variables, remember, when you go to your annual checkup, they're measuring your heart rate, blood pressure, glucose, and cholesterol. Your dynamic system and those state variables don't change very much. That's like a seismic scientist trying to forecast collapse risk of buildings based on angle of declination. No, they don't do that. They do resilience testing. Every other field of science does resilience testing. Biology does state assessment. Your heart rate doesn't change your whole life, but your heart rate responds to exercise of what declines with aging. So why are we using the variable that doesn't correlate with aging and not using the one that does? This is a swing and a miss of the 20th century because we thought about biology 3-dimensionally instead of 4-dimensionally. So I filed patents on every diagnostic on the market for the dynamic version. The future of diagnostics is dynamic. It's not going to be static. We're going to be contributing all of that to science. So things like cardiac stress tests should be the model for absolutely everything. We should be resilience testing all of our diagnostics. Same with therapeutics. So right now, when the blood pressure is high, we give you a blood pressure lowering medicine. That solves the numerical problem, but when you restore homeostasis without restoring homeostatic capacity, you actually lose resilience because you're causing system atrophy. It's like propping up children. They become weaker. So every drug in the market right now leads to further decompensation. Just like the more coffee you drink, the more tired you get chronically. So it solves the acute problem, but you're actually digging yourself a bigger hole. So fast forward that in a person's life, because we've got to keep taking more and more drug to get back to homeostasis, by the time we're in a nursing home, we're maxed out on every drug, maximum dose. So while we're doing some good, are we really solving the underlying problem? All we're really doing is, and this is another game, we're playing Wack-O-Mole. And as good as that system is, we need something radically different. What if we gave people, instead of blood pressure lowering medicines, what if we gave them blood pressure raising medicines to put exercise in a bottle? Because that's the best way to treat hypertension, right? Is to exercise. Well, when you're exercising, you're raising your heart rate and your blood pressure, and that actually lowers it. Think about that. If you restore homeostatic capacity instead of homeostasis, you come off of drugs, you get more resilient, you get healthier. What if you did this with every single chronic disease? Instead of trying to make you better with a drug, push you the other way. Build resilience. Have homeostatic capacity be the drug instead of homeostasis. This idea has been known for a long time. It's called vaccination. Make your body a little worse, and it actually strengthens it. Let's build our own buffers so we can wean ourselves off the medical system, get a whole lot healthier, whole lot stronger. Is that possible? This was the foundation of my wife and I starting this movement on trying to redirect healthcare resources from solving homeostasis to solving for homeostatic capacity. You can see how that one word change changes everything. Ultimately, what we're interested in is seeing if we could edit the genes out that make us lose homeostatic capacity. That's the fastest possible way that we could be dramatically healthier and hopefully solve aging. But in the meantime, I want to leave you with some thoughts about what you can do today to improve your own homeostatic capacity. Here's the prescription. Increase your dynamic range. How do you do that? Well, instead of avoiding the sun during all day, go out in the sun, and then at night, turn out the lights. Increase the dynamic range of your light exposure. Like what Bob was saying, have the chandeliers be able to perform dynamically instead of statically. Because if we have static exposure to sunlight, this is what happens. You debuffer, and you get sunburns. Again, not one of Ted's toys, falling asleep on the job. But it's not just sleep that matters. It's alternating sleep with something exhilarating, right? It's about dynamic range. Stretch your muscles. Don't sit in ergonomic and neutral chairs and cars all day. Do the opposite. Flex and extend. Stretch your range. All the lifestyle recommendations out right now are static recommendations. Do this, do that. No, what we're saying is do everything and do it in opposite directions. So instead of just exercising, doing the same exercise all the time, do a different exercise. Different time of day. Same thing with diets. All the diets out there are about doing one thing, right? Well, what we're saying instead is, yeah, you can be vegan, but if you keep doing that, you're going to atrophy. You're going to lose your metabolic resilience. So eat healthy, that's fine, but maybe once a month, have a bag of Dorito. There are many things we can do like this that expand our dynamic range. Again, complete change your activities, what you do, go home a different way, travel to different places, listen to interesting talks, have a wide range of experiences. These are all things that are going to increase your dynamic range. I couldn't find any pictures of the internet on this one. Here's another thing that increases your dynamic range, laughter, that exercises your heart and lungs. These are all ways to increase our dynamic range. You know what they told us after 4 years of medical school? That laughter is the best medicine, right? I mean, why didn't they just tell us that in the first place? Of all the diseases out there, many of them are contagious, like viruses and stress. Unfortunately, none of our current therapies are contagious. Like if I gave you a drug for gout, it's not going to make you feel any better. What's the one therapy that actually is contagious? Yeah, laughter, exactly. So I got to tell you, we don't know if this is all going to happen soon. But I recommend you all try this. Stretch your dynamic range. At the minimum, life's going to be fun. And at the maximum, it may actually make you healthier while we wait for science to do amazing things. So I look forward to building this amazing future with all of you. I want to thank Bob Kramer for founding this amazing organization, and thank you very much.